Everything is better with friends, so we decided to innovate on the format. Happy to be here with you and feeling really energized and inspired from the morning. Thank you so much for sharing with us. We did introductions yesterday, so we won't go too in depth, but I'm Savannah Kunovsky. I head IDEO's Emerging Tech Lab.
They can probably hear me without the mic as well. I can do my teacher voice. But Yusuf, Ahmad, I lead Play Lab, and I used to be at the MIT Media Lab.
Hey, I'm Seth Trudeau. I'm their imaginary friend.
That's why he's hiding.
And just to share a little bit about IDEO specifically, and Yusuf will share more about Play Lab later. IDEO is a global design and innovation company, so we work with organizations all around the world to create positive impact through design. We're a consultancy, we do physical products, we do systems change, we do strategy work. It's really across the board, but it is all from the perspective of human-centered design and a lens of design applied to all sorts of challenges. So we design everything from new products to an entirely new system. We try to work with purpose-led brands and organizations to design new product pipelines, service offers, ventures, all the way from food movements to systems design and everything beyond and in between. And as IDEO, we're always looking around the corner to see what's next. Our clients come to us with asks for what's coming in the future and where should we go, and for advice on what the future might look like. And while I don't have future telling powers, I do have speculative design and human-centered design and all of these other resources to help us understand where things might be headed. Specifically, I head IDEO's Emerging Tech Lab, and that means that we both do client work where we're supporting all different industries from big LLM providers and figuring out what their strategy is to new forms of robotics and bio and Web3 and everything in between and beyond. It's a really interesting position to be in because it means that rather than focusing just in one space, we get to have this more broad view of where emerging technology is taking us. And that's also to say that the future is not just generative AI, or it's not just one technology that we're hearing about hyping in the moment. It is about the future that all of these technologies together are bringing us and what the future will look like because of that. So we get to, on one half of it, just kind of work with clients and support them in building towards the future. And then the other half of it is doing more design-led research and development to explore what new interaction methods might be or what new possible futures we might create. Specifically, let's talk a little bit about generative AI and anchoring into the context that we're all focusing in today. For quite some time, IDEO's stance specifically has been around augmented intelligence. So rather than just talking about artificial intelligence, which I think kind of as a terminology just disconnects us from the impact and our agency and influence over the technology, let's talk about augmentation. And so how do we think about this as using AI to enhance human capabilities? And obviously there are times and places where automation is happening and does happen, and we don't want to ignore that fact. But when we're designing new systems, let's think about how they contextualize and they fit into life systems on Earth. So that's for planets and for plants, for plants and for people and for animals. Whenever we talk about AI, I like to start off by just talking a little bit about ethics. And this is a huge oversimplification of something that I know quite a few folks in this room are studying pretty heavily. But let's talk about some foundations of ethics in the generative AI space specifically. And so to oversimplify, ethics are especially important in the AI world because of the greater scale of impact. So these tools and technologies are able to reach more people more quickly than many things that we've seen in the past. And that means that also the practice of design has scaled from okay, let me design this kind of singular object to something that in seconds can be blasted around the world. And so to that extent, AI is kind of a chainsaw. It really just can cut through and move through very quickly, and we want to be mindful of the technologies that we're putting out into the world. So AI should be transparent, responsible, and explainable, and also honest about how possible each of these are. Some of them are huge research categories that don't have defined endings, but how can we, start to think about these things and approach them as thoughtfully as possible and bring the right ethicist and expert into the room whenever we can. So when we integrate AI, we, as human beings who are designing these systems, also need to be transparent and responsible and explainable, and to keep those things top of mind. So as a TLDR, my personal thoughts about this whole hype train that we're sitting in the middle of right now, it already has. We've interacted with this stuff for a while. It's not just that it's come out in the last couple of years and now it's affecting us. It has made massive global shifts for quite some time. So it has and it will change life as we know it. We can't ignore it. There's this huge wave that you all, I'm sure, have been feeling for quite some time now. There are incredible opportunities, but we really need to proceed with intention and intentionality about what we're creating, what we're putting into the world. So we'll do a quick overview of how different organizations are approaching generative AI. The first one is some organizations are saying, optimize it all, just fire everybody. So McKinsey has put out several reports that have said that they see a future of deep optimization and lower human labor needs. A while ago, IBM froze hiring, and they estimated that 7.8 thousand jobs could be done with AI over the next 5 years. So that's the first bucket of just push optimization, push that into organizations. The second is caution, pause, take a step back. Apple started with internal tools and internal innovation. Stack Overflow which is a tool for software engineers to get answers about their coding questions from other developers. When ChatGPT first came out, then tons of engineers were first adopters, and they were posting all of these answers on Stack Overflow in response to people's questions that were generated by ChatGPT that were completely wrong. And so they decided that they were going to ban answers from ChatGPT. And they were waiting on higher quality, and their story has kind of since evolved since then. But you can see that some organizations are just like, wait a minute, what is going on here? And how do we be really thoughtful about how our consumers are going to be impacted by this in the design of our products and our offerings? The next is kind of the opposite of that. So open the floodgates. Duolingo immediately came in and was building on some of the core promises of their app, created a role-playing and explanation functionality, and has invested a lot into the technology. Canva similarly launched a whole kitchen sink of different features that are generative AI across multiple modalities, including audio, writing, and imagery. So when you're using Canva, which is an online design tool, you can automatically and immediately use generative AI in many of the things that you're doing. And so they really said, this is a big opportunity for our consumers, and it's an opportunity to make our user experience better. So let's invest in it, and let's create more kind of features that are going to support people in using our products. The next is a whole wave of strategic partnerships. There's been some news over the last couple of days of maybe Gemini from Google working with Apple, which is an interesting twist that these two tech giants who have their own kind of investments in R&D in this space are considering collaborating together to make an offering that is going to be stronger because of the breadth of their offerings and their businesses. But some other things that we've seen, Microsoft has invested over $10 million in OpenAI. I don't know if you all watched the Sam Altman getting kicked out by the board drama a couple months ago, but there was a lot of involvement in that process by the CEO of Microsoft, and their investment and their kind of understanding of what's happening at OpenAI is really in depth as a strategic advantage to their business, and also in knowing that their business is going to be evolved in many interesting ways. So they've put a lot of thought and resources into that. BCG and other big consulting firms have announced partnerships with big providers, so like Intel and Google Cloud and OpenAI, and just seeing more of these like formalizing of relationships between different providers. And it's interesting because normally when you're an organization and you're adopting a tool, you don't necessarily announce it. You say like, yes, I signed up for, IDEO has a ChatGPT Teams account, or IDEO has a Slack account, but like we don't post on the internet that we like have a partnership with Slack. And so it's interesting to just see kind of how, because these technologies are emerging, it's like, let's create this partnership so that we can figure it out together. And let's figure out how to take your technology that's been created in many ways through research labs and through the minds of brilliant engineers and scientists, and then commercialize it and figure out how to make the offering stronger together. Another is making more investments to differentiate. So Adobe built Firefly, which is a design and image generation tool. And they decided that in their tool specifically, that they were going to focus directly on the IP concerns of creators. So unlike some of the other image generation tools that exist, which were trained kind of on the breadth of the internet, Adobe said our audience is designers, and our audience is people who are going to be really concerned with these IP questions that are going to come up, and copyright, and who owns what, and was this ripping off my artwork, and all of the feelings and emotions that kind of come up there. And they said our differentiation as an organization is going to be to focus on those concerns directly, and to build a product and to build a tool that is making sure that feels okay for our users. And organizations like Bloomberg have built GPTs with their own specialized knowledge so that you can communicate and interact with their articles and their information. And more and more of that happening with the launch of custom GPTs through OpenAI and other open source and other resources available. And the last category in here is just getting really weird and experimental. So Grimes, who is a musical artist, known for also being married to Elon Musk at some point and naming their child like XEA3 something. I don't know if you saw those headlines, but she decided to go all in on this stuff, and she actually built a platform where she allows people and asks people to use her voice and to use her music to generate new music. So a lot of artists are like, I don't want anything to do with this. And she went in the opposite direction, and she was like, take it all, and if you make a hit, like, let's share the profits. Jolly Roger is a phone service that uses ChatGPT to waste telemarketers' time. So it will answer the phone for you, and it'll, they'll start being like, hey, do you want a something, car ownership, something? And Jolly Roger will be like, just tell me more. And like, what about that detail? And how does that make you feel? And tell me about your children and your life, and just like take them on this journey forever, which I love. Snack is a dating app. It's a Gen Z dating app. And it's an app where you feed as much of your information as possible, and then everybody on this app has an avatar, and your avatars go on dates with other avatars who have as much information about you as possible, and then decide your compatibility and set you up on real life dates from there. So all sorts of fun experimentation happening, and I'm excited for us to also share some of the experiments that we've been working on at IDEO.
Can you hear me? There we go. One thing I'll just say is like everything Savannah just showed you, that's today or the last year and a half. This stuff is changing really profoundly. And one thing, so that this presentation, we're giving you context, we'll get into some playtime soon. In the second part of our time after the break, we'll be we'll be building together. So just keep that in mind as you're listening. So this experiment, I think, is really interesting because when you think about design education, one of the things that a lot of people in the room are thinking about is what is the future of design? How does this impact craft and the process of design? And so IDEO and the folks that Savannah works with, they've been using generative AI as part of their process of crafting physical design materials. So in this case, they used Midjourney. They started to generate concepts and ideas through prompting just to provoke and kind of broaden their creativity. I'm not going to get, again, too into the details. Here's the same prompts and different results that they pulled up. And again, exploring how this, one of these concepts that they're pulling, again, it's not just ChatGPT, not just Midjourney in this case. They've integrated generative AI into a broader design process. And so I think that's the question that they're playing with. How does this influence their craft, augment it, add to it? And then this is where they end up, the final kind of product that they ended up developing that leveraged AI, in this case, Midjourney, as part of their design process, right? Midjourney is not doing the design, right? It's sophisticated designers asking questions, leveraging it to enhance their creativity. And so as you think, kind of again, coming to the later part today, as you think about the future of design education, one prompt here is how might this shape the craft, both of yourselves, but also the students who you're preparing for this new world. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been also to that point, it's been interesting to think about redesigning systems or products, not just so that they have generative AI as part of them, but also contextualizing like what it means to be a student or what it means to be coming into the workforce in a world where these tools exist and are widespread. Because when I was in school, I couldn't just go to ChatGPT and generate an essay for me, or I couldn't go to ask it for answers for something. And so the fact that they do exist, even if you say don't use it, they're probably going to use it anyways, because that's what we do. And so what does it mean to design educational systems and to design products in a world where people have access to this stuff and it's influencing their lives and their potential job prospects and their social spheres? Some of the proactive research that we did, you can see it's June 2023, so this is already almost a year ago, was exploring the perceptions of generative AI for the future user. So we worked with a bunch of Gen Z folks to understand what their perspectives were. First thing that we did was social listening. So we went on to TikTok and we went on to Instagram. We scraped a bunch of comments and interactions that young people are having with those platforms in regards to posting about their perspectives on the generative AI tools that were coming out at the time. And also just watch the videos and kind of use that as a research method to understand what people were more freely posting and expressing on the internet. And that shaped some of our initial hypotheses that we took into designing some early provocations, where we created a set of concepts. I'll show you a few in a minute. And those design provocations were all like, what does it look like for me to have different forms of generative AI embedded in my daily life, in my social life, in my school experience? And we took those design provocations into co-creation sessions where we had councils of Gen Z folks, and we asked them for their opinions, and we asked them to redesign parts of the products with us, and asked them to, help us shape them into things that they might actually want to have. And their reactions, as somebody who is not Gen Z, were pretty surprising. So some of the design provocations that we took into those research sessions, we designed a passion coach, which can, look at all of the things you're interested in, look at some of the classes that you've been taking, look at, what your friends might be interested in, and help you figure out what your, passions might be and what courses you might want to take, what clubs you might want to be connected to, just how you might want to really dive into those passions. So that was one of the concepts. And another one was our AI friend, which I think it's a missed opportunity that it wasn't called friend with AI in the middle. Sorry, Seth. But this is an AI friend who is embedded into your friend group. And whenever, you're like looking for things to do, it can recommend things for you to go do. Or if there's conflict happening in the group, then maybe it can support a mediation. But it's kind of an extra friend that's in the group with you and can support you as needed. And some of the principles, the things that we learned coming out of this research, was that Gen Z really said that they didn't want the existence of AI friends and interventions in their life to close down their connections to other people and to their friends. So they said AI-driven connections, not AI-driven interfaces. Utilize GenAI to curate creative communities, ensuring access and seamless connections to like-minded people with similar objectives. So the ways that these tools can be designed are, how do we make this really like social and interesting and connective? Or it can be designed to like help you find your silo and individualize and just do what you want to do. And overwhelmingly what we heard is that Gen Z wanted the more social and collaborative experience, and they wanted technology to support and assist with that. The next one, which I thought was interesting on a couple of different levels, is help me live my best life, but don't live it for me. So allow me the opportunity to experience learning moments for myself, empowering me with tools and information that help me navigate these moments with intentionality and care. So as somebody who's been working in tech for a while, a lot of the time when I'm designing a piece of software, I'm like, how do I make my life as easy as possible? And how do I streamline and simplify and take the worries away? What we heard from Gen Z was really different. It was that I actually want to go through some of life's big moments, and I want to struggle, and I want to have the human experience. And so I don't want this technology to just make everything seamless and simplified. I want to feel the emotions. I want to, get into the fight and make up. I want to, have these experiences that really do make us human. And when I say that out loud, it feels like it should be obvious, but like, it's not. So honor the messiness of being human. Don't pretend that we're perfect. Help me show up as the perfectly imperfect human that I am. So kind of building off of that, how do we support folks in becoming more of who they are? And really, when we think about this one, it is, what is the place of technology? And are we just inserting it because we have it and because we have access to people through their social media and through their learning management system and all of these things? Or is it actually a helpful moment for them to be using technology and for it to be intervening in their lives? Because as designers, that is so much of what we're doing. We're creating systems that are intervening in people's lives, ideally to make them feel more supported and to make them feel more connected. But a lot of the time we're creating these interventions, we're creating these systems and are not totally conscious of that fact. The last one that I will talk about is a pair of talking pants. And this is a provocation on the fact that we are all going to be talking with a lot more non-humans. So the thing that large language models do, like OpenAI's ChatGPT, is create a way for us to more humanly connect and interact with technology, and with these systems that are a little bit more intelligent than what we've seen in the past, but only 90%. So what does this actually mean, that we're going to be talking to more non-humans? When we did a little bit of research for this project, we also were working with Gen Z and exploring their thoughts around brand loyalty. And with Gen Z, there's this wave of choosing your values over choosing a specific brand. I should also say that this research was done in the US, so things contextually might be different, but they're really thinking about, the world that we're going to live in. There's climate impact. We've gone through this social justice reckoning. I'm holding my values when I'm looking for things that I'm going to buy, and so I'm not going to be loyal to a specific brand. I really want to just inspect and understand what's behind what I'm looking for. So that means that shopping is also a research practice. It is not just, oh, I want a black t-shirt, I'm going to go and buy the first thing to come up. It is, what's behind this? Who made it? Where does it come from? Is it made in a way that I align with on a more ethical level? We're doing research. We're trying to figure out if we actually feel good about what we're buying. And so that led us to saying, like, what if the object itself, so in this case, a pair of jeans, could talk to you, and it could share more about its background. So we could ask it questions like, who designed this product and what were their influences? And it could respond back. We could ask it things about what we care about. So like, what is the carbon footprint of the manufacturing of this product? How are the workers compensated? Or cultural questions, kind of linking into some of the nostalgia. So what eras were these most popular in, and who wore them iconically? And most importantly, how did jeans really feel about khaki pants? So there are a lot of benefits in adding personality to everyday objects. For people, it means that you can have a more emotional connection to your everyday objects. If I could talk to this chair, which is, look, it's very cute. If I could have a conversation with it, I would feel more emotionally connected to it, and maybe I wouldn't want to dispose of it as quickly. And for brands, there's an interesting opportunity there for product differentiation. Adding technologies to everyday objects means that you can add extra layers to those objects that we haven't been able to have before. So typically you buy an object and it's, if you buy a pair of pants, they come with a tag and it tells you some facts about them. But if you can actually communicate with them and ask them questions about where they're coming from, and you can add a whole world of backstory to them, kind of like a video game character or something on TV. And with that, we have Seth.
So we're going to play. Like I said, things are fun to do with your friends. And so, since we're among friends, let's get into it. Okay, so before we do, a lot of games, it's best to go in if you know the rules. And so it's worth just thinking about, as we're going to explore some actual use cases in a very important and pragmatic situation. Just thinking about what are some of the consequences, both first order, second, third order, of what we do. So thinking about the fact that these are technological tools, but that doesn't mean that they aren't somehow representative of the people who designed them, right? And so all of these tools come with specific biases baked into them. That it's unavoidable, but there are ways to mitigate against it. With all of these tools, they are generally morally neutral, right? The tool itself doesn't necessarily have an inherent bend towards good or evil. There's certainly some exceptions to that, but for the most part, like a hammer can both be used to drive a nail and commit horrific acts of violence, right? So thinking about the ways that these can be used for evil, how can they be used to exploit? How can the drive towards monetization actually kind of rob some of those principles that Savannah was talking about? There's one that I think we've probably all already been exposed to within the last year, right? These tools specifically, the generative AI tools, can be used to make us believe that the Princess of England is totally fine and that there's nothing wrong, when in fact that is almost certainly not the case. I actually don't know that, right? None of us know, but you can use this stuff to create and propagate a specific story, a specific point of view that may or may not be true. And how we understand what is real and what is not is partially influenced by the way that we choose to use these tools. And then, of course, there's tons and tons and tons of questions of privacy. Savannah mentioned earlier, Adobe's taken a position on this in the way that they built Firefly, saying that they're not going to just use everything that's available on the open internet. There are questions being asked of almost all of these generative AI tools related to where does your training data come from? And how are you using the inputs that are being provided by your users? These are real questions. They're things to grapple with. And so, of course, I think it's always important that you grapple with these in the most high-stakes situations imaginable. I'm going to come back to this in a second because I want to make sure you know what the high-stakes situation is. Okay. So here's the deal. We want to be able to design an AI tool that helps a chicken to cross the road. You guys are familiar with the joke, right? Why did the chicken cross the road?
To get to the other side.
To get to the other side. That's the joke. I don't know why. So you're going to get into groups of 3 in just a moment, and you're going to think about how could you design an AI tool that helps the chicken to cross the road? And because choices are fun. Or you're going to design a tool that prevents the chicken from crossing the road. So you can also, if you really want to get like very meta about this, you can think about it as, you know, it's about, are you going to use AI to augment the capabilities of humans/chickens? Or are you going to design an AI tool that helps to protect and safeguard people/chickens? Okay? The charge is clear? The consequences and the stakes are established? Excellent. We're going to ask you to consider 5 different potential lenses around the kinds of capabilities that are available to you. And in a lot of ways, these line up really nicely with what John was talking about earlier, but some of them extend a little bit further in terms of just specificity to generative AI as a specific kind of use case. So just to run through these really quickly, and we're going to give you access to this deck, both so that you can see this, and because we have a link in here to a PDF that goes into even more detail and more depth. Okay, but generally 5 things. Think about it as the third hand. How does it assist you to do things that might otherwise have been out of reach? Give you new capabilities. The second skin is more about taking existing capabilities and enhancing them. The detective is the idea of how do you detect signal from noise. If you've got a lot of information to work with, what do you actually pay attention to? The lens is about giving you new perspective, being able to look at something and see it in a different way. And the chameleon is about being able to take something and transform it in a way that helps you to kind of unlock a hidden, maybe like a hidden capability. Okay? So we're going to ask you to think about at least one of these. And maybe there's something interesting in the interaction of some of the different ones. But what you're going to need to do is get together with your group. And probably the first thing you need to do is decide, are you helping the chicken? Well, no, you're helping the chicken no matter what. Are you helping the chicken to cross the road? Are you allowing it to ascend to peaks never before imagined? Or are you preventing it from crossing the road and therefore not taking any risk and being able to continue to live a full and rich, though more constrained life? I don't have any preferences. You could also go the evil route and determine that preventing the chicken from crossing the road means that the chicken meets its demise. That is also a possibility. You didn't hear it from me. So, you're going to determine which of those approaches you want to take with your group. Then you're going to brainstorm a bunch of potential ideas about things specifically related to these that might be useful in either helping or hindering the chicken from crossing the road. And then just zero in on one of them and think about what would that really be? How would it be using generative AI in order to make this possible? And then we're going to come back and we're going to actually have every group share out real quickly, okay? Choose the person in your group that has the least number of titles and degrees, and let them be the one to share, okay? I'm allowed to make those jokes. My father was a university professor. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So we're going to take, what do I think? I'm going to tell you a number, but then don't pay attention to your watches, because we might change the number. We'll spend like 25, 30 minutes going through and doing the kind of brainstorming and developing the idea, okay? We might come around and prompt you at certain times that it might be a good time to move on and start to actually get into the, we might do something like that, okay? You have access here to this whole deck. If you just go to this slide and click on that link over there, that link will take you into even more detail on the cards. Don't feel like you have to go into more detail on the cards to start, but it might be helpful if you feel like you're getting stuck or blocked. But otherwise, this is fine as a starting point, okay? Don't go over the top. Okay, cool.
Chicken head, getting the self-driving cars, chicken detector.
Chicken's rights are the most important of rights.
So it has to be time limited because the cars are coming. Yeah, it's got to be synced up.
I was circulating for the last 25 minutes, and I'm really excited to hear so many of the ideas that are about to be shared. So we're going to run around. Every group's got 1 minute to present. If you did not, while you were with your group, figure out who was going to present, here's what you do. Real quickly, everybody in the group point at one person. You guys go first, because
Can I do it from here?
You can do it from right there. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, you've seen the final result now, but we actually started way broader and we thought about, okay, maybe we just spread misinformation and delete the street from Google Maps and just, yeah, vanish it from existing. So there is no street that the chicken can cross. But then we actually thought, okay, maybe it's even better to say, well, we just spread this, we use this, the possibilities of GenAI and to spread information about a chicken religion, or maybe make the chicken sacred. That of course would involve, it wouldn't be an immediate solution, it would take a lot of time to generate some sort of religion and some beliefs and some also historical maybe information, that there might be some chicken god, or you might even be reincarnated as a chicken, or maybe even if you're in a car and there's a chicken on the road, that might be your grandfather, for example. So, of course, that would need to take a lot of work in generating kind of manifests. And here, ChatGPT now proposed something called Gallospiritism, which is the belief in a reincarnation as chicken. And there's core beliefs, there's also rituals and practices and ethical guidelines here that I could go into, but that would not be 1 minute then. Yeah, so basically our solution is just to make the chicken sacred so no one runs over it.
Let us keep it moving. Okay, yeah, well, you're already standing, so you get to go next.
Thank you. So we have, our chicken should be helped to cross the street. We have a multiple point plan to do this. First of all, we promote that there is a vegan country and an egg eaters country, and they should go over. First of all, we have a chicken recognition AI, which tells a chicken-based traffic light to slow down the traffic. And as it is stopped, then we have a drone controlling with a rope a corn, which directs the chicken across the street. And if there is a car not stopping, there is a kind of hologram of an elephant covering the chicken so that the car might better slow down. And if this is still not working, there will be a vegan driving assistant in the car implemented, which just forces the car automatically to cross around the chicken. So that was the easiest plan that we found out.
So we had two solutions. The first one was very easy. We just built a fence. But then we gave it a second thought. And we tried to understand the joke, but we couldn't. So we tried to find the deeper meaning of it all, but there was none. So finding a metaphor where there isn't one could be an AI helping to find philosophies behind anything. And our AI application is called "Why Did the Egg Cross the Road?"
We had two opportunities. One is called assisted flight chicken carrier, which is quite technological, like the one with the drones. It means drones are assisting the chickens crossing the road. They could carry them, or they could fly together with them, or they show them how to fly from time to time. And the second one is empowerment, which means we get some kind of artificial intelligence hosting the chickens from their very first moment in life on, and training them to cross the streets properly.
We debated, we want the chicken to be empowered to make its own decision. And if we look at what is happening, and look at AI, we see industry moving in a fast pace. We see educational institutions trying to stop chickens, right? And this is not new in technical innovation. Disruption happens, and usually educational institutions are the last ones to understand it. So this is why we want to shift that responsibility, give it back to the chicken. Hopefully AI can take that stand in design education and give the responsibility back to the chickens so they make their own decisions.
Any groups? Yeah. Good. I was like, there's more groups than that.
So, first of all, we thought about the environment, and we think we have a chicken in a very nice farm. So, first of all, there's no reason to leave this farm. But if one of the chicken wants to or thinks about leaving the farm, we have a multi-level system to prevent the chicken to cross the road with a lot of cars going or passing by. So we have a nice picture here showing the situation, yeah. At the bottom, you see the chicken, it's in the farm and it's running around. It has a very nice night cave, and if the AI system identified that the chicken might leave the farm, the night cave is going away from the street on its own, so the distance is increased. And then we have a really nice AI-based feeder to motivate the chicken to stay in the farm. If this doesn't help, we have an AI-based dog which scares the chicken not to cross the street. And in the end, if the chicken always wants to go over the street, we don't know why, we have additional blocking drones imitating sounds of enemies and so on.
Now you have to come up front.
Yeah. So we also had a discussion about whether the chicken wanted to cross the road or not, and we decided because of the frame of the joke that the chicken did want to cross the road, and so we went with that, with the will of the chicken. and then inspired by the myth of Orpheus, to essentially cross the gates of hell, something like that, and to not look back and get run over by a car, designed the Chicken Vision Pro, which are which are aviator glasses attached to the chicken, much like in the Chicken Run movie, where the glasses essentially delete cars from being obstacles and generates a safe path of corn on the ground that the chicken can follow through and get safely to the other side. That's about it.
We also went with the survival instinct of the chicken. And our GenAI kind of creates moments of fear to either stop the chicken to move forward when there are cars coming, or to make it run away in the direction to cross over the street when there's some space. And that can be scaled from a one-line road to, I don't know, 1,500 lines of road. We don't know if it works, but well, let's see.
So thank you, everyone.
There are many things to be said about that, all of that. One thing that I'm going to say with a deep level of confidence is that this group has performed the deepest textual analysis of the why did the chicken cross the road joke of any collective of humanity ever. So kudos on that.
So we're done with part one. Before I wrap it, anything you want to add, Savannah?
No, just thank you for playing with us. We had a lot of fun. It was extremely practical, and there are probably some metaphors for design education somewhere in there if you really think very, very hard, and then keep thinking, and then get distracted and think about something else. We have just here's how to stay connected to all of us. These are QR codes to our respective LinkedIn's and social accounts, and you know where to find us on the internet. Would love to keep learning with you and learning from you as you continue to dive deeper into this space. It's been really interesting to see how people are thinking about it from different lenses, and we have our pockets, but we learn so much from learning alongside you. So thank you for letting us do this with you, and we're excited to continue.
Before we get started, I want you to invite everyone to stand up. Now, what I'd like you to do is point to one person who's in your row, in the same row as you. So point to one person in the same row. Do you have your person? So if you're being pointed at, I need you to raise your hand up high. Raise it high. Sorry. Excuse me. Let me say that again. The person, so the person who is being pointed at in the row, yes, exactly. That person needs to raise their hand. So in the front, it's Annette. You're Annette. Yep. So not Christoph, not you. Okay. It should be one person per row raising their hand. Perfect. Okay, so we got that? So now what I want you to do is, everyone in each row, this was a lot more complicated than I thought. As long as there's one person who's raising their hand near you, I want you to look at them. Okay? Just look at them. Now the person, so in the front case, Aneta, what you're going to do, you're going to have about 30 seconds when I say go, not yet, but you're going to have 30 seconds to teach the people next to you a dance only using instructions, only using words. Yeah? 30 seconds, the person who's raising the hand in your row, give instructions to the people next to you, only using words. Ready? Go. Let's give a round of applause to the people who gave the instructions. And a round of applause for the people who danced. So the reason we started with the dance is really twofold, right? One is we're going to be building and making, and when you're building with a new technology, it's kind of like learning how to dance. A lot of us have complex relationships with building and with technology, and just like with dancing, it's about letting go of your inhibitions and getting going. Right, so that's one of the big mindsets I'd love to invite you to have today. The second is a lot of these generative AI tools right now involve giving instructions. In a way, the programming language is English or German. The tool we're using today, you can use German to prompt it. And so that's something to think about as well. Right, so giving instructions and letting go of inhibitions. And so thank you. You're welcome to be seated. That was really fun seeing the dancing. Thank you guys for joining and participating in that. So the goals for this last session today are twofold. One, we're going to spend some time actually prototyping an AI design tool for design education in the spirit of creating life hacks and things that you might be able to use pretty soon. And the second thing is we want to use this prototyping exercise as a real concrete context for probing both the possibilities as well as the limitations, ethical and otherwise, of generative AI, right? So that's the goal for today. Some norms to think about as we engage together, I'll just leave those here. But if you're not familiar with any of them, both end thinking, right? So there might be multiple perspectives and different ways to look at something. The second one is actually really important. When I say accept and expect non-closure, you're not going to leave with all the answers today. There's a lot of, John, Madeline, the work from before, Savannah's work. There's a lot of rich information that's been shared, and the space is evolving very rapidly. And so just expect not having all the right answers, and expecting for that to change. And so just keep these norms in mind as you build and as you engage with each other. We're going to start with some context. Hopefully this will be short, and then most of the time will be spent making and then sharing what we're making with each other and reflecting on that. And so just some quick context. Who in the room here has actually used ChatGPT? Just raise your hand. Keep your hand raised if you're using a premium account, like a paid account. Okay, there's a big difference in the room. And for those who put their hands down, have you used a paid version before of these tools? Yeah? Okay, we have a few. Beyond ChatGPT, has anyone else used Gemini or Anthropic and some of these other tools? Okay, so we have quite a few. So a lot of chatbot users, and who's using it every week? Okay, we have some folks are using it. What about image generation? Yeah? Okay, quite a few folks. Has anyone tried making video yet? A few people. This is a really old demo, so I'll let it play because I noticed a lot of people haven't. This is from Runway ML. This is about a year old, this demo that I'm showing you. And this is technology that's been used by Hollywood already. So Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, this award-winning movie, they used this tool to generate scenes in that movie. So this is already being used in Hollywood today, which is why you had that strike, and which is why you're already having big debates about what does this mean for work, what does this mean for creativity, right? I'll keep it going. All of that said, I would argue that we're in the mainframe era of generative AI. We're very, very early. Very, very early. When I say mainframe, are folks familiar with what I'm talking about? Like, this is the era where people used to have time-sharing computers. They take turns doing compute. It's like waiting for ChatGPT or one of these things to send you a response. We're very, very early. But if you look at all of us today, we all have these smartphones in our pockets. These smartphones that you have are much more powerful than these computers that would take more space in this entire room. Just pause and think about that for a moment. And now think about that with respect to AI. We're in a moment where we have these models that seem incredibly powerful and capable. And my thesis is we'll have models that are incredibly capable on our phones and devices within years, right? You can already download some of these, Llama 2 and other models on your laptop. I know Seth has a few of them on his laptop that he keeps with him. But the most capable ones will be on device quite soon, that's not too far away. The other thing that's worth thinking about is like the whole chatbot phenomena. That's also not new. This is Eliza. This was developed at MIT in 1964. But people have been thinking about like, computers as talking machines for quite some time. And the reason I share that is the paradigms that we have in our life are what we bring to how we design technology, right? So if you're thinking about AI as an oracle, AI as something you talk to in a chat-based format, that's likely what you're going to end up designing. It's why ChatGPT doesn't really, if you really fundamentally think about it, doesn't look all that different from this. And so the invitation, if you lead into some of the presentations earlier today, is to really start imagining what are the different ways this might look, right, for different kind of use cases and contexts. The other piece is another version of a chatbot that came out when the internet emerged. I don't know if anyone played with Fred, but in the 90s, he was a laid-off media company worker, which is an early joke because a lot of people at that time were like, oh, newspapers are going to die. And it's very real, though, right? Newspapers have been really hurt by the internet, but it took time. It didn't happen in the 90s. It didn't happen in the early 2000s. It took till the late 2000s for this to really impact media. And we're all seeing it now, like it was obvious. But the point is that change took time, right? And so that's the other thing to think about as you're reflecting on kind of a lot of what Savannah shared in her last talk. The other thing I like thinking about is twofold. So one is like, if you think about computing, moving from the mainframe to these different operating systems, I like to think about the LLM, these large language models, as a new kind of operating system or a new kind of computer that we're trying to interact with. This is from Andre Karpathy, who used to lead AI at Tesla and was on the founding team of OpenAI. But the reason that's really profound, in my opinion, is that when you're learning how to use a new computer, we don't even know what this thing is capable of, but there's also a really powerful opportunity to design interfaces. Again, it was designers who designed the mouse, right? The graphical user interface. And so again, that's where we're trying to imagine what interfaces could be invented that haven't been invented yet to interact with these kind of tools for all kinds of things. So all that being said, as you've seen so far, AI is here, it's in the world. It's impacting how we live, it's having profound implications on our politics and our culture and our society. But the reality is that all of us, including the people developing these technologies, don't truly understand the possibilities and the risks related to what they're doing. It's hard when the technology is changing and evolving so fast. There's a lot of hope, right? I've seen these tech tools change people's lives in really profound ways, but I've also seen the harm and the risks that they've caused to real people. Dr. Ruha Benjamin in the US talks about how these algorithms of oppression, using a line from Sophia Noble, has impacted the lives of black and brown and low-income people in the United States, and that's not unique to the US. These patterns have been reproduced around the world. And so as you build today, as you think about the possibility and the hope, the invitation is to try to do so responsibly and to think about the bias and the risk when interacting with these kind of tools. The other thing that's really important to consider is that AI is being shaped by very, very, very few people right now. I want to underscore that. There are millions of educators around the world, billions of people. There, depending on how you count, there may be a couple 100,000 AI engineers, and I'd argue there may be a few thousand at most, maybe a few hundred people who are making the critical product decisions, the leadership decisions about what is actually being built. Just sit with that for a moment. There's a path that we're on towards consolidation, aggregation, where more people are users and used by these systems, if you think about the data that you generate. There's another path where people are actually creative and influencing these things. You laid out that vision, I think, pretty compellingly earlier today. And so those are the tensions to think about in this moment. So let's just pause there. I know I've shared a lot. There's been a lot that's been shared today. But just turn to a partner and discuss, after sitting through the workshop so far today, how are you feeling about design, education, and about the future? What are your concerns? But also, what do you feel hopeful about? I'm forgetting your name. Is it Benita?
So, from my perspective, I cannot draw. So, a friend of the designer said, of course, everyone can draw. When I see my sketches, I'm definitely not a sketcher or drawer. It's so ugly. But with generative AI, the results are becoming so delightful and gives a voice, a designerly voice, to others. But on the other hand, what is then the unique skill of a trained designer? And I think maybe the jobs of a trained designer will also change. In which direction? I have no answer, but that is exciting. It's a little bit scary. It's a new opportunity. But it needs to change, that's for sure.
And you also made a point earlier that I was eavesdropping on their conversation around how it's easy for people to underestimate, craft, and the other skills associated with design as well. So just thinking about the nuances there that are pretty interesting. Anyone on this side want to share?
we discussed about the concern that we have, that it's in former times it was easy to monitor the development tools what we use for teaching to students, but now it's getting such a huge amount, and it's not really possible to do it by yourself. Or still to be constantly updated what's going on Runway and these kind of tools. So it's a task that we need another structure for. So it's not only, it can't be that it's only on a single person. So it must be maybe with the students together as one of our motives.
One concern we discussed is that the teaching is maybe too slow in developing new forms, in opposite to the speed of the development of AI. So we are always in the back seat and not in the front seat, because we are too slow to develop the teachings.
This reminds me of the point in the last session about the chicken and the universities being trying to kill AI. But yeah, Jen's will be the last one.
Sorry, last one, because I wanted to say, so what we heard right now, the concerns are all related to AI for design, but we should also think about design for AI and enable designers to become creators of those systems, and then we don't run behind, because then we are the creators of the system together with other experts. And I think this is also one of the goals education has to cater for.
Thank you for that. So we're going to keep going, but let's keep the conversation. We'll continue this during dinner and later today. And so just quick context before we build. So PlayLab, one of the reasons we built PlayLab as a technology nonprofit is we're trying to build what we call public infrastructure for learning or for education in the age of AI. When you say infrastructure, you often think of roads, bridges, maybe public housing, sewers, things like that. But we're calling this technology infrastructure because we want it to be open software, and eventually all the way down open AI models that are transparent, that are auditable, that can be owned and appropriated by anyone. This idea being that you know what data your AI tools are trained on, they can live on your device eventually, and then you can draw on and learn from at the application layer from anyone in the world. Right? So that's kind of the vision that we have. And so the kind of concrete piece is, one, we're a creative platform in a community. You can think of us like Scratch, so easy to use, or as robust as like GitHub in terms of just the range of kind of things that people are building. We're also a research platform, as we work with researchers and academics to study, how are people building with AI? What are they doing? How do we make it easier to do richer and more meaningful things that are evidence-based, and thoughtful? And the last piece is we're trying to build what we call AI infrastructure. So we're taking the data on our system, we're partnering with school systems and doing this in a way that's responsible to try to train open source AI models that are, again, transparent and that are auditable. We haven't started that yet because we don't have the team to do that part of the work, but we have some agreements in place where we're actually able to start collecting that data. And so that's kind of the three part of what PlayLab is. Again, I'm not going to go into all of this. Well, this will be included in the takeaway deck that we share with you. But a lot of what we think about is how do we lower the floor to who can create with AI. So we work with educators, and we've been spending a lot of time in the US with paraprofessionals. So these are people who don't even have a college degree, who struggle to use Google Docs or Microsoft Word, to see how might we help them build with AI, just to understand what does it actually take to design for the margins, as some people like to say. The other thing that we've been doing is we've been working with nonprofits as well as schools. There are a lot of nonprofits that have great expertise on a range of issues, but they have no idea how to use these kind of technologies. And so we're working with them to harness their expertise to actually build AI tools. Again, to the point earlier, just like designers should be shaping this, we believe that a lot of other kinds of expertise should be shaping how technology is adopted in our society. And then lastly, we're just doing a lot of research, right? Trying to understand what actually drives impact. There's a lot of hype right now, and we think the hype is actually unproductive because people don't think when things are overhyped, right? It's easy to see a cool demo, but as soon as you tear down the demo to see underneath the hood what's happening, oftentimes it's like, okay, is this actually should we be doing this, right? Is this the thing that is leading to the society that we want to live in? And so one of the things that we're trying to do is encourage conversation, reflection, as well as research to kind of counter the hype and uncover what actually drives impact in education. And lastly, kind of that's just more details on how we're thinking about the open data, but I'll skip that for now just for the sake of time. What we want to do is, again, we'll share the context and what we're doing, in the takeaway slides. We're welcome to talk about it later. But again, today's focused on building, and I'm going to invite Seth up, who's going to demo how to build something in Playlab. Yeah?
If you all want to consider what a generous and gregarious guy Yusuf is, he spends like his whole life building this platform, and then he just lets me come up and present it and explain it to people. Great. Thanks, Yusuf. Yeah. So Yusuf and I together built this tool real quickly to use today. So part of what we wanted to show was like, you can build for really niche things and build them very quickly, right? This is literally probably a one-time use tool. And I promised that I was going to screen record during this part. So let's do that. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to do this together with all of us. The goal of this tool is, if you need a little bit of a stimulus or like a prompt as you go into designing your own tool, we're going to create a possible future in which you might need to imagine the role of design education. Okay, so we'll create a scenario. So the first question we need to answer as an input here is, do we want to create a utopia or a dystopia? Raise your hand if you want utopia. Oh, wow. Great. I know most of the time people always want to go dystopia. It's great. Let's go utopia. How far into the future do we want to imagine? Anywhere between 1 and 20 years. 1 year. Do I hear 6? Do I hear 6? Do I have a 6? 6. Do I have 7? Okay, we're going to go 5. You got overruled, Renee. The two people next to you both said 5. Actually, you know what? No, I'm not going to do it that way. You said 5, you said 5, you said 1. We're going to say 11. Okay, so we've given it to, it'll just always ask for those inputs, right? And now it wants to know some insights, right? So the first two things were very structured. There was only a certain number of ways we could have answered. Can you share a few insights you want to build your scenario around? Unfortunately, I had Yusuf do this work for me already, because he asked you guys a few minutes ago. So I'm just going to input those. Okay, so I heard some design skills are being democratized. There are questions about how the role of trained designers is changing. It's more difficult to monitor the development of tools used to train designers, and teaching is slow relative to the speed of emergence of AI. Let's start with that. Okay, that's what I've told it. It's going to give us a scenario now, I hope. You know, maybe it's not. Maybe it's not feeling very utopian today. Yeah, no, I'm going to just reload it. Oh, it was starting to. There's no future, guys. Sorry. All right, let's just use this one. It's 10 years in the future. It'll work. In 2034, education has been transformed by the seamless integration of physical and digital spaces. Schools and universities have become vibrant hubs of collaborative learning powered by intelligent architecture and hybrid gadgets. The buildings themselves are alive with technology, walls can transform into interactive displays, furniture adapts to the needs of each learner, rooms can reconfigure on demand to optimize for different learning activities, biometric sensors discreetly monitor student engagement and well-being, allowing the environment to respond in nurturing ways. Hybrid gadgets, which blend the tangible and the virtual, are ubiquitous learning companions. Students wear sleek AR glasses that allow them to access contextualized information, connect with remote experts, and visualize complex concepts. Haptic gloves. Technology doesn't isolate, but rather enhances human connection and collaboration. Peers gather in dynamic pods to tackle projects, seamlessly sharing digital resources and weaving together their unique skills. Learning is joyful, social, and the built environment acts as an empowering third teacher. Okay, so there's a scenario for us. Not generated live on the spot, normally it would. So we're gonna, in a moment, have you guys start to build your own AI tools. Now, I'm a firm believer in the power of choice, and that if you tell people that they have to do just one thing, at least some of them will do it grudgingly or subversively. And the second one I'm more okay with, but the first one less. So I like to give choices. So when we get into building your own AI tools, you will have the ability to build a tool that might be needed in this scenario, in the interest of design education. Or if you want to build something for your current context right now, you can. Okay? But what I want to show you just really quickly is, I'm going to not build a whole new app just because right now I'm not trusting. All right, we're going to build a new app. We're just going to do it real quickly. Okay. We're going to just build an app right now. So the community guide, we're going to call it the Design Education to Community Guide.
Well, so Christoph was talking in our group in John's session about wanting to be able to build an AI tool that could possibly help, connect people in the community, build relationships. And so that's what this tool is. And so when you come into the editor, what we've done to make it easier to build, to lower the floor, is it starts off with a Mad Lib. So on the right side of the editor that's where you write your instructions to the AI. So the first part in the background, you're describing the AI, what kind of expertise you want it to pull from or represent. What is its role? Going back to even Savannah's point, like is it a creative companion? Is it something else, right? So you're ascribing a role. And then the workflow, you drop your instructions. Like what specific steps do you want the AI to take when it's interacting with a user as you think about your tool? And so do you want to drop the instructions for this tool here? So again, this is trying to connect to community members based around expertise or questions that we might have. And then conversation rules, this is just kind of guidance for how the AI interacts with the user, right? So you don't have to follow the structure that we have. We just created this based on some good practices around prompting. And this is quite a simple prompt. You can make this much, much more sophisticated. And so let's try it out. Do you want to do it on GPT-4 Turbo?
You want to do GPT-4 Turbo?
Yeah, why don't we do that?
All right, great.
And so you can also pick which AI model you're using.
Oh wait, no, you know what I need to do here?
When building the tool. Oh wait, we got to check the reference.
Yeah, Yusuf uploaded we have a reference here to the list, the profiles of all the people here. All right, let's do it again.
See if it, just check the references to make sure it updated. Yep, there we go. We're good. So if it's checked, so the reference section at the bottom, that's knowledge that we're training this AI tool on. So Christoph had sent me the PDF of the participant handbook that we all have with everyone's bios and information. So we uploaded the PDF, and now in this case we've picked OpenAI's GPT-4 Turbo. Whenever we send it questions, it's going to give us answers based on the booklet, or that's what it should be doing. Let's see if we prompted it correctly. Okay. Let's just say I'm interested in learning about responsible design.
It's like a parlor game. Okay. Let's see if it says the right person.
And that is like, I'm the last person you should be asking.
Okay, let's see real quickly.
Does this seem accurate? Is it pulling from the reference material? Again, so we haven't tested this really, right? So this
we literally just built it.
We just built it right now. But the point is, as you think about responsible design, your job is, okay, this is the first prototype. It took maybe a minute or two to build. You got to iterate on it. That prompt is very simple. So what we want to see is, okay, how do we make sure it's giving us the kind of output that we want? And so on the right side, after you test it, you can do it back and forth, so we can ask it more questions, right? Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Are you sure you want to ask the question?
Renee, if it doesn't say you, we know we need to iterate. Oh, look!
Did Renee hijack the AI? Oh, wow. I mean, so that's it. That's like the 101 on building a tool. The only other thing we'll show is, do you want to scroll up to the top? So on the top left of the screen.
Oh, it answered it! It answered it! Oh, it changed my question.
So last few things we'll show you before you get to building. On the top left, you can pick which AI model you're using. And so this one is built using GPT-4 Turbo. If you've heard about Claude 3, which was recently released, it's the first model that beats GPT-4. You can use Opus, which is our most powerful one, or Sonnet, or a Haiku. And then we have one open source model here for now, which is from Mistral. Their large model is quite powerful. The reality, though, again, is it's not fully open. None of these models, like including Mistral, the data is not open. You don't know what it's trained on. And so, again, in the short term, what we're doing as a nonprofit is we're allowing educators to build on top of these. We understand the capabilities. We can start testing how this impacts learning, teaching, other things. But in the long term, our plan is mainly building these kind of tools on open source models that are technically transparent. And you know, we can talk more about it. The last thing I'll just say from a privacy and safety standpoint is, one, none of your data is being used to train any AI, right? We have data agreements with all these people. We're not using it to train, right? We only do that when we have formal agreements with partners. And because this is a shared workspace, you're building tools in a collaborative setting with other people. Be mindful of the data that you upload, right? So if you're uploading like a reference material, like the participant bios, I think that's okay to share because we've already shared that with each other. I wouldn't upload sensitive student data or any confidential information that shouldn't be shared with anyone in the room here today. Right, so those are some guidelines to think about as you get into building. Anything else in terms of before you send them off?
Yeah, I think there's two things to consider, right? If you're really just like super eager and ready to go, then you can just jump into the space that we shared. We put the link up for you to sign up before. And you can just click right on like build a new app.
Yes, let's go back, yep. In the top right.
You can go right there and you can just start building, right? You'll get a blank template. You can follow the guidance that's in there. You can write something totally different. It's, you do you. But if you're like, I actually don't even know what I want to do, one of the things that I love in here is that you can take an existing app and click to remix it. So if you go into any one of these and click to launch them, then you can go up and remix it. And when you remix it, it'll basically just take you into the back end. It'll take you into the same, like basically this version of it. It'll make a copy.
Yeah. And you can also do that on the homepage. So if you go to playlab.ai, any of those apps that are on our homepage, you can play with them. They've been built by real educators around the world. They're all open. So you can see it, you can try it, and you can remix it into the space to build on top of. I know some people were talking about writing, like writing feedback and assessment. There are a number of examples related to that. There are a number related to project-based learning, right? How do you help people come up with rigorous project ideas? And so feel free to remix those if you're having trouble starting from scratch. But again, we want you to build. We have about 30-ish minutes to build. We recommend doing it at least with one other person. I know if about half. Raise your hand if you have a laptop here today. So there are enough people. If you have a laptop, try to partner with somebody who doesn't have a laptop. That way, like it can be a good shared experience. And then what we're going to do is, towards the end, we're going to do a gallery walk where we'll share what we're working on. The goal is not to have something perfect. You're prototyping, right? You're all designers, right? So just get going and have something you're ready to talk about with other people. Any questions before we get started? Yeah, we'll put back up the link for signing up. Yeah.
It's right there.
There you go. All right, happy making. we share back, I just want to show you one thing. You all will have access to this workspace after today, right? So you can go back in, you can keep using your tools. These are all the things that people built today. So these are all the different projects that this community of designers worked on. Projects that likely would not have been created because designers are not the ones coming up with them. I just want to pause and think about that for a moment. There are all these brilliant ideas that each of you have, expertise, knowledge, experience, relationships, and now you have a new design material, as John reminded us this morning, right? Generative AI. And minimally, my invitation is keep playing so you can build your intuitions, what are the possibilities and limitations of this technology. And as some of you noted, there actually might be some really powerful things that you can do with it, right? Again, depending on the kind of use cases. And so again, you have access to the space. Just like a technical detail, I'll just share one thing. One is I'd recommend setting up your own workspace. So at the bottom of your list is not going to be as long as mine. You can create a workspace. You can call it John's workspace or Aneta's, or you can name it after your class, right? But you can create your own workspace, and when you do that, you can invite people to it, right? So if I can just create test, design, education, IF, that's my alphabet word soup workspace. If you want to invite people to it, you can just copy an invite link and you can send it to them. What that'll do is it'll allow them to skip the wait list. They can join your workspace as well, so you can collaborate. I think building and playing is always more fun together with people. And so this is my gift to you as you leave today. Keep playing. The usage is limited. We are like a nonprofit, but we're still paying for the AI model costs. If you're interested in using this in more depth, just get in touch with us. We're slowly expanding that. We're still working through GDPR, which is why we're not formally partnering with people in Europe yet. But that's context in terms of if you want to keep playing in PlayLab after today. But with that, I just wanted to end with two questions for you. I think one is, what were your ahas from today, right? I'd love to just hear from a few folks. Are there any ways in which you're thinking differently, either after this session or from the sessions today? And number two is there anything that you're burning to keep discussing over dinner, this evening, or in the future with your colleagues? Yeah. So let's hear from a few folks before we wrap. Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, hello.
I was impressed by the outcome of our neighbor group, the study buddy, and I think it would be helpful for all of our students. It was a nice approach.
Okay, wow. So you feel like you built something that you is almost usable?
Yeah, so it's. I think it is very usable if it's used in the right way. So it has a curriculum inside, and the students can ask questions and get answers about this. I think for newbies at the university, it's crucial.
Really cool. Okay. Here we have.
So my biggest insight was how the tone and small elements like raising eyebrows in a text change the reception of the conversation.
So we're starting a new seminar on participatory design at the TU Munich this semester. And what I'm actually thinking about is whether, whether AI can somehow support participation as a tool without it being too gimmicky, because that is mainly my worry. So what I'm experimenting with is, for example, people building cityscapes just from paper, with paper and glue, and then kind of feeding that into an AI model, and then trying to see what, let's say, for example, a meta city could look like. So just get AI giving us a different layer of technology that we normally would not be seeing. So what I'm curious, if anyone has any experience in, or wants to think with us about using AI as a method of participatory design, I think that would be super cool.
That's really, really cool. I'm going to shift to my last question.
Can I steal this for a quick second? I just did some prototyping, last week. Let's talk about it.
Okay. Last question before you wrap. One of the things I like to do in these sessions is when we're working collaboratively, you're often learning something from someone else. And so just take a moment, think about something that you learned from someone else today. And minimally, please, after we end, go to that person and thank them. Thank them for sharing their knowledge with you and teaching them. Does anyone want to share back with the whole group one thing that they learned from someone else? We have time to hear from maybe 2 people. Yeah, Christoph.
First, John, 90% is crap. That helped me. It really helped me. And Yusuf, it's supposed to be fun. And I was horribly nervous before actually going into this last exercise. And hey, it's fun.
You made something.
So thank you so much. Sure. And thank you, John.
Cool. We can hear from one more. My ask is, please thank someone who's not a speaker. No, but like, we'd love to hear from one more person, and then we'll wrap and we'll call it a day. Anyone else want to share a piece of gratitude to a colleague that you learned something from? Yes.
I'm not an educator, I'm a journalist, and I'm writing about design education, and I'm really thankful and enthusiastic about all of you witnessing teachers and educators to be really empowered by new tools is very inspiring. So thanks to all of you for participating in this.
Okay. Well, look, we don't have time. I'm going to wrap it up before Renee kicks me off the stage. But if you find a moment before you leave today, go up to someone, thank them, share what you learned from them. I've learned a lot from each of you today, and I'm excited to stay in touch and to keep learning together. The one thing I'll just say is we're very, very early to generative AI. This is a play in front of me. When moving cameras first came out, they used to go to playhouses and record plays. That's very, very different from cinema. It took decades and decades for cinema to develop and evolve, and cinema is still evolving, right? It's beautiful to see the different kind of creative films and ideas that artists and creatives come up with. You all are the creatives that are going to help invent and design what AI becomes, right? That's what I'm excited by. And so keep playing, keep tinkering, share your ideas with us, and help make a future where AI is creative, it's beautiful, it's much more decentralized, it's not aggregated by big tech, and where more people can express their voice. And be in touch and be a partner in that journey with us. And this is how you can stay in touch with all of us. Thank you.